Hello, and welcome back to the GFD or Gym for Dummies. Today is going to be part 5, and we're going over how to structure a bulk. Start off, it's going to be the same as how you're going to start off a cutting phase as well. And before you can begin your weight gain journey, you need to know what it is that you wish to achieve. So you need to have something that you're wishing to work towards. Let's say you like to bench press, and right now you can do 95 pounds. And your goal for the end of this bulk is to bench 225 pounds. That is a work to a strength level type of goal. And if that is your only goal and your only purpose in the gym, then that is all you need to do on bulk. You can also work to a weight. Let's say you're severely underweight. Let's say you're 140 pounds and you would love to be 170. That's your goal. And let's say you just want to get bigger. You want bigger shoulders, bigger arms, bigger whatever. Then you're working to a look. The only thing I say here is no matter what your goals may be, don't ever become obese because that is not something that I'm ever going to recommend anyone. I don't recommend obesity to anyone. And then this is where it really matters, the maintenance calories. So to have any effect on your weight, you must first have a rough estimate of your maintenance calories, right? Because calories are always going to determine your weight, whether you're in a calorie surplus or a calorie deficit. That is what affects your weight. So you need to know what your maintenance calories are before you can begin trying to gain weight. And in order to find our maintenance calories, once again, refer back to GFD part 2. We go over how to do that just in a TDEE calculator. For an example, I am a 20-year-old male. I'm 180 pounds. I'm 6 foot tall. I select the moderate exercise option when I'm filling that out. This says I have a 2,840 calorie maintenance daily. And this is basically going to be structuring the first entering of the surplus. So when starting a when starting a surplus, you typically want to add 2 to 400 calories onto the estimated maintenance. And the reason why it's pretty low here is because I just don't ever want to set any of you up in the position where you'll be doing a really dirty bulk, because I don't want any of you to put on excess amounts of fat. And it's basically entirely proven that these bulks where you're eating excessive amount over your maintenance aren't really conducive to more gains. They're kind of just conducive to the same amount of muscle gains, maybe marginally more, but ultimately just leads to more fat gain. So that's why I recommend starting off with 2 to 400 calorie bump up from your maintenance. So as you can see here, your total calories daily, 1.2 grams protein per pound body weight times 4 for the amount of calories in a gram protein. Total calories times 0.25. This is going to be your total fats. So you're going to be aiming to get 25% of fat from your you're aiming to get 25% of the calories from your diet from the fat that you consume, and then times the 9 there for the calories in a gram of fat, and then carbs for the rest times 4. It's a pretty similar calculation to how we did it for the cut, just with different values there. So 3,100 calories from that 2,840 plus whatever 260 to get to 3,100, and then 1.2 grams protein for 180 pounds, 216 grams times 4, 864 calories, 3,100 times 0.25 will be 86, or this would be 725 calories, and then you divide it by the 9 to get 86 grams of fat, and then just subtract this 775 from this 864 to get 31 from the 3,100 to get 1461, divided by 4, this 4 here, to get how many grams of carbs you'll be consuming in a day. I know it's kind of a complicated equation here. I don't really know how to set it up any better. And obviously these values are going to be different. The only thing, you just change your total calories and then kind of run it through that same process, this equation here, to figure your own daily macros. And of course you can play with it a little bit. Let's say you want higher protein or higher fat or higher carb. If you want higher carb, drop your fats and your proteins a bit. If you want higher protein, I would not recommend dropping your fat, but maybe drop your carbs a bit. And yeah, so it's all gonna be dependent on you, but this is a general equation you can use. If you are eating these macros, I can promise you these macros will be good for gains. But yeah, moving on. Um, This is another big one when you're trying to bulk, especially as a beginner, because I find that the biggest issue that beginners are facing is not being able to eat enough. So to make getting the higher quantity of food down, we want to start our eating as early as possible in the day, and then consistently eating throughout the day. So I like to say 4 to 6 meals daily that are all similar in calories, and then 2 to 4 hours apart in each meal. Obviously, if you're eating 4 meals, probably closer to the 4 hours apart. If you're eating 6 meals, closer to the 2, 2.5, maybe 3 hours apart each time. And definitely not 3 hours apart if you're eating 6 meals a day, actually, because you need to sleep. In terms of macronutrients, we want high amounts of fast digesting carbs along with moderate protein and low fats 2 hours before training and immediately post training. This is going to make it so that your macronutrients are working the hardest towards the gains that you are making, right? Because the carbs before are going to allow you to push really hard in the gym, and the protein is going to help with building muscle. And they're basically doing the same thing afterwards, but except instead of the carbs helping you push in the gym, the carbs are helping you recover after the gym. And then with whatever macronutrients you have left within the day, I would make sure that they're just evenly spread throughout the day, um, in all the rest of your meals there. And what I would say as well is put majority of your carbs in these pre and post workout training. So let's say in this example here, we're eating 365 grams, and this is an example with me in it. So what I would do in this situation is for my pre-workout training, I would have 100. My post-workout training, I would probably have between 100 to like 120, and then that remaining like 140 to 120, I would have, or I guess 160 to 140, I would have spread out with the rest of my meals throughout that day there. And then moving on once again, controlling your variables while you're bulking. The most important thing while you're gaining weight will be keeping consistent, right? Because if you are not doing the same things every day, you cannot expect controlled results that are accurate and consistent. So if you're constantly under eating and then overeating and then under eating and overeating, or you're just consistently under eating, or you're just consistently overeating, right? You're not going to get the results that you wish to achieve, right? Because the point of this bulk is to put on muscle, right? If you're consistently under eating, you're going to be putting on less muscle than you intend to. If you're consistently overeating, then you're going to be putting on more fat than you would like to. If you're consistently going between both of them, your body's not even going to know what to do, and it's going to be getting like, as stupid as it sounds and as bro science as it sounds, you're going to be confusing your digestive system, and your body will just not be doing what it should be as optimally as it could. So develop systems to make hitting your calories easy and make missing the gym hard. If you are in a caloric surplus and not hitting the gym consistently, you are putting yourself in a position to gain fat as opposed to muscle. This video should really be all about diet and whatnot, but of course, I need to recommend that you go to the gym if you are trying to gain weight, because otherwise the weight that you are looking to gain will end up being mostly fat, and I cannot assume that you are trying to gain fat because I don't really understand who in the right mind would ever be trying to gain fat. So stay in the gym, hit the gym consistently. We'll talk about developing a split and whatnot in the future. If you're not already in the gym and you're looking to gain weight, the gym has to come first. Gaining the weight can come after, because otherwise gaining the weight will be pointless. Tracking your progress. Along this journey, you will need some metrics to track your progress to make future adjustments and ensure progress is being made. What I'm going to say these 3 metrics to track are going to be your weekly weigh-ins, so once a week in the same time and day, so the results are consistent. Just stay on the scale, take a picture, write it down, so that you know how your weight is changing as a result of the food that you're putting into your body. Weekly progress pictures, same thing, how your body is changing as a result of the food you're putting into your body, and just make sure the same spot, lighting, and poses and roughly time of week and day are all the same, so that you're seeing the consistency and how it is changing on a more consistent basis, so that you are getting more accurate results. And then of course your gym performance. If you are not consistently getting stronger within the gym, then your bulk, something is not going properly. Potentially you are under eating. Maybe you need to adjust your macros. Maybe you need to adjust your food quality, but if you're not getting stronger while you are bulking, then something is severely wrong. The entire point of the bulk is to getting stronger. And then making adjustments. This is the only really other part that we talk about, the calories and whatnot. So with this more passive approach to bulking, making adjustments can become pretty crucial. One thing I will say though is that within the first month, I would never recommend making adjustments as the weight gain will be inconsistent as your body becomes more full in terms of glucose because your glucose gets stored in your muscle, and for every, I believe, gram of glucose, your body has stored extra 4 grams of water, and your muscle can store so much glucose, so your weight will fluctuate a lot with your hydration and the amount that you eat and everything. So in that first month, I would say just stick to it and kind of accept that whatever happening is just happening. Obviously, if you're putting on a ton of weight, drop your calories. But if that's not what's happening, then I would say just stick to the plan for that first month, no matter what, because it'll be inconsistent anyways. So you may as well just let it and then make adjustments after that first month once that phase of your muscles refilling with water and glycogen has passed. And then, so in terms of making adjustments, so if you are gaining 0.3 to 1 pounds weekly, I would keep everything the same. What you're doing is working as intended and everything is going correctly, especially if you're still putting on muscle in the gym. Your results are essentially perfect. If you're putting on 1.1 pounds or more weekly, I would actually drop your calories while you're bulking, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, but that is just a lot of weight you're putting on a week. You can't be putting on a pound of muscle every week, right? That's just not really the way it goes unless you are enhanced. And if you're watching a gym for dummies and you're on steroids, then you certainly are a dummy, but you should not be here. So if you're gaining this much weight in a week, definitely drop your calories because the weight gain is too excessive. And once again, it is unlikely going to be muscle. And then if you were losing weight or less than 0.3 pounds a week, I would say increase your calories by 200 because you are not a surplus or not in enough of a surplus to be maximizing the amount of gains that you're making. And of course, there are arguments that you can maximize your gains without even gaining weight. And my kind of argument for that in this situation is that I'm assuming that if you are here watching this Gym for Dummies tutorial and you are watching a video on how to bulk, then your intent is to gain weight, right? You are unhappy with your current weight. So if you are not gaining weight, increase your calories. And when I say increase your calories by 200, I'm going to recommend that when you increase the calories, you do it through carbohydrates and add another 50 grams of carbohydrates. But at a certain point, it might be hard to keep on adding carbohydrates and keep on adding carbohydrates and keep on adding carbohydrates. So I say add carbohydrates when you can, right? Like try and get as much of this 200 calories that you add, which if it was all carbohydrates would be 50 grams. Maybe add 40 and then add like 2 or like 5 grams of fat if that's what you want to do. You know what I mean? Because the fats are gonna be much easier to consume, and adding just 50 grams of carbohydrates week after week after week will make it the bulk very hard for you if you're someone that struggles with having the appetite to keep on eating that. But yeah, if you're losing weight, increase calories. If you're gaining too much weight, drop calories. If you're gaining within this range of weight, you're cruising, you are good. Just continue what you are doing. And then once again, I know that the biggest struggle a lot of people that are new to the gym have with bulking is going to be under eating. So a couple tips to combat that is going to be early and consistent eating. So making sure you are eating, like if you decide to eat every 3 hours, then you eat every 3 hours and you eat first thing when you wake up because that is going to give you so much more time in the day to get your eating done. It'll give you so much time to fit those calories in, and it'll make the whole entire process much easier on you. And then the second little tip I have for you is eating foods that you already enjoy, right? If you're eating an amount of foods that you are uncomfortable with and you don't even like the foods, then you're going to be really uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So eating foods you enjoy or making the food more enjoyable with things like sauces and whatnot because you are already trying to get calories or potentially struggling to get calories in. Don't be afraid to go heavy with the sauces. You know what I mean? Maybe not crazy, but a little bit of sauce here and there isn't going to kill you, and it'll make the food more enjoyable and therefore easier to eat and more calorically dense. It'll help the whole process out. And then when I say this here, opting for more calorie dense options, I say this lightly because what this means to me is maybe instead of eating chicken breast, we eat chicken thigh because it's a higher fat, right? But that does not mean that instead of eating lean ground beef, we go to McDonald's, right? Because I don't want to advocate unhealthy eating, but definitely choosing more calorie dense options will be helpful. Just don't take that for choosing unhealthy options because those are two very, very, very different things. And then another big piece of bulking is staying healthy. I've talked about it before, but dirty bulking in terms of either excessive eating or eating highly processed foods because of how calorie dense they are, is a very unhealthy process, and it puts a lot. It will raise your blood pressure. It will raise your heart rate. It will do all these horrible things for you, and it will make it so you're gaining a lot more fat than you intend to. And who wants that? Who wants to gain fat? So at the end of the day, the purpose for most gym goers is to look better and be healthy. And if you are trying to dirty bulk and eating highly processed and calorically dense foods, this approach will lead to neither, right? You will not become healthier and you are not going to look better because you are going to look fat, right? And so that is not what we want. So what I say for staying healthy is your food choices. Stick to majorly whole foods, unprocessed, digest easier, better macronutrient density. It will leave you feeling better. It may be harder to eat them, right? But it will be so worth it. I can promise you that. I have dirty bulked. I have been excessively fat, and I have now been cutting for ages because I dirty bulked, right? So if you can't learn from yourself, then learn from me. I promise you, you do not want to dirty bulk. It is a future regret for a um, convenient convenience, right? Don't trade convenience now for regret in the future. It's not worth it. And supplementation, once again, I always recommend omega complexes, electrolytes, and then anything you're deficient in within your diet, which in a surplus is like going to be unlikely because you're going to be eating a lot of whole foods anyways. But if there's anything you're deficient in, I recommend you supplement it. And then sleep, of course, you were trying to maximize the amount of muscle you're putting on. Your body needs that sleep to recover from all that hard training and to allow it to develop this muscle. 7 to 9 hours a night. Please, please, please get your sleep in. You don't want that. And then cardio and daily activity. Cardio is not treated the same in a bulk as it is in a cut. It stops being a tool and more so becomes a measure of staying healthy, right? So we're not doing cardio to allow us to get more calories to eat or burn more calories into our calorie deficit. We're just doing it to stay healthy. Our list here, we do it to keep insulin sensitivity. And I'm not really going into that too much right now, but basically it just will allow your body to use the macronutrients that you are consuming, especially the carbohydrates, better to allow for more muscle growth and less fat gain potentially. And it will keep your heart rate healthy while weight increases. And as a bonus, it can increase your appetite, right? So doing 10 minutes of cardio may only burn 100 calories, which you would think is a negative while you are bulking. But if it makes you want to eat perhaps 500, then it's really a net positive while you're bulking. So what I recommend here is picking a moderate amount of zone 2 cardio. And if you don't know what zone 2 cardio, it's essentially based off heart rate, and you can Google that yourself. But zone 2 cardio is essentially where it is challenging but not brutal, and you're not extremely out of breath or dying. And I recommend doing between 15 and 20 minutes 5 times a week. If you want to do a little bit less because you're bulking, I'll definitely say that you can be a bit more lenient on it. But this is just what I would recommend for keeping everything healthy while you're gaining weight, because with weight gain, your blood pressure and your heart rate kind of gets affected anyways. So what you can do to preserve those two measures will definitely benefit you in the long run. And that is basically it for the structuring your first bulk. I find it a bit more simple than cutting because it is really just eating more, right? But if you have any further questions that you want to ask, leave them down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like down below. If you want to see more of these type of videos, then leave a subscribe down below. And I appreciate you watching, and I love you, and peace out. And I hope this video helped someone positively, and thank you.